Alright, I'm making this video to cover another wonderful piece of content in The Witcher 3, which, despite being nearly developed, was cut from the final version of the game. But it is now made available thanks to Redkit. And while over the years I've heard all sorts of rumors and mentions involving pieces of cut content, I had never, until recently, heard of boat racing in The Witcher 3. That is precisely what the modding community has managed to dig up and patch together, and we already have a working first iteration of the boat races available to the public. It was apparently intended by CDPR to be another side activity similar to horse races and fist fights, so at some point they developed and fully voiced at least 4 boat racing quests, or regattas as they're called, in every major region of the game. But likely because they ran out of time or desire to polish the gameplay aspects of it, they decided to drop it altogether, which is a shame because I think these quests fit quite well, and you'll see why soon, because I'm about to walk you through all of them and talk some more about it all. But first I'd like to take a moment and thank the modder who brought this to us. The name is Mersey Rockoff. You may have heard it before, because he is the primary gentleman behind the Brothers in Arms mod, basically the biggest restoration project in The Witcher 3, still relevant even after the next gen edition. The links to both mods are in the description. I imagine this one might become an addition to the Brothers in Arms eventually, but at the time I'm recording this, they are separate. Alright, let's jump into the quests. Advertisements for the boat races can be found on notice boards at these 4 locations: the Novigrad docks, the Oxenfurt Square, the village at Kaer Trolde, and the village at the foot of Kermuir, or however that was supposed to be pronounced. It's directly downhill from Madman Lugos's place.
Why do they call you Madman?
Which, by the way, contains a most interesting quest you may have missed if you haven't watched that video. But anyway, starting at the Novigrad docks, there seems to be an annual tradition of racing between the people from Novigrad and their neighbors, most prominently the Redanians, and while previously it was more for the prestige of their financial supporters, it has now become a more serious issue, since Radovid, and by extension Redania, actively threatens the independence of Novigrad. There are a few pieces of dialogue as we approach, both ambience and cutscenes.
In the last race, Vivaldi himself backed our lads.
Nothing helps a bank's repute more than winning a race. I've heard him say it.
It's true. It's why he spent a tidy sum improving their boat. So's the word.
Who's racing today?
It's our lads against the Redanians, as always. Only the funders change. Race Mistress knows more.
Redanian Cobblers Guild gave that lot a large sum, and still they've been piss poor and late.
Now don't you fret, Master Arthur. Winning's a matter of honour for your boys. Funders are all well and good, but they race principally for the glory of the king.
There about to be a race here?
Our men against the Novigradders. The Mistress of Races is best informed of its details you seek.
And then a conversation with the Race Mistress, who is clearly on Novigrad's side, and who may or may not be Weaves in disguise.
Sorry to bother you.
Oh, no need to apologize, my dear. What can I do for you?
This regatta you got going on, I want to take part.
Excellent. New competitors are always welcome. For which side do you wish to race? Redania or Novigrad?
Why are those the 2 sides?
Why? Because one of the crews receives support from Redanian funders, and the other from us Novigradders. You see, previously, victory was a matter of mere prestige, increased renown for the funders. But since Radovid now threatens to take the city, well, it's a political matter. So, with which side will you stand?
She's definitely happier if you choose to represent the Novigradders.
Novigrad. Always liked the town.
Good decision. Please, head to the pier.
Figure Redanians are the minority here. Think they could use a hand.
Well, if that is your preference, please head to the pier.
And she does have a few anti-Redanian lines afterwards.
Of this I'm sure. No good can come of religious fanaticism. It takes a great deal of arrogance to call a pyre salvation from sin. My husband's gone grey as well. Politics.
I suspect she may be the person who composed the announcement as well, because it does stress that Novigrad is a free city and invites people of all walks of life, including non-humans. which, as we know, goes very much contrary to the order that Radovid establishes if he wins the war. There are also several different sponsors for each team, such as Vimme Vivaldi and Horson Jr. for Novigrad, and less interesting ones for Redania. I caught 3 or 4 variations after starting the quest a dozen times, but there may be more.
Attention, please! Today, the banker Vimme Vivaldi has lent the Novigrad crew a hand, while the opposing crew benefits from the patronage of the Redanian Cobblers Guild. Attention, please! Supporting the Novigrad crew is the Assorted Crafters Guild. Redania benefits from the aid of Master Yosserin, maker of green soap. Attention, please! Redania's crew will race today thanks to the generous support of the Tanners Guild, while the Novigrad crew is supported by Cyprian Wiley, entrepreneur in diverse domains. A heartfelt thank you to all of today's funders.
Horson, by the way, is mentioned regardless of what happened to him, although I wouldn't say that's a major issue since, like Vivaldi, he was probably a long-time sponsor. And finally we get to the actual racing.
And now, please join us for the race. May the best crew win. Take your places. Away you go!
Which, sadly, is also the main downside. In its current state, it's quite monotonous, and there is hardly anything cool you can do. Unlike horse racing, there is no equivalent to the stamina bar for the boats, or any other actions to perform, apart from simply holding down the accelerate button. Also, there is nothing similar to the horse saddles, no boat gear essentially, and so the 2 boats, yours and your opponent's, move at essentially the same speed, which 9 times out of 10 means that if you fall behind once, there really is no going back.
Ha ha ha! You haven't a chance!
Couple that with other issues like the fact that the racetracks are incredibly basic and most collisions with the opponent's boat tend to affect you worse. Like, you collide and then his boat just continues while yours sort of stumbles around, which in turn discourages any real attempts at boat aggression, and generally it's not a particularly enjoyable experience.
Where'd you learn to sail?
My sight to behold. Positively riveting rivalry. Terrible shame you were not able to prevail this time. But never worry, there shall be other races. Next time you're sure to do better.
And here's how it goes if you actually win.
My sight to behold. Positively riveting rivalry. And to win with such style. Congratulations! Behold your prize. Funded, of course, by our generous benefactors.
Now, the modders do actually have future plans to improve the races by adding new and randomized routes, among other things, but the question still remains of what the actual vision was for this content. Was this what CDPR ultimately intended and decided they didn't like? Or are we looking at some sort of, I don't know, an alpha state? A placeholder version that they ran out of time or resources to properly develop? I did actually notice a few things that may indicate that the devs had bigger plans. I'll get back to it when we reach Skellige. And also, there is a somewhat curious fact that while the cutscenes and dialogue were fully developed, the actual racing section was somewhat incomplete. The modders had to do some extra work to get it going. I haven't pestered them about the specifics. Perhaps Mersey or Glassfish can drop a comment on the matter. But in short, I suspect that the initial plan may have been something more interesting. Right, without further lollygagging, let's move on to Oxenfurt. Here we have a rather witty and sarcastically written advertisement. The annual races are organized by the local academy, which Radovid shut down, and so they poke fun at him by suggesting that perhaps he thought that the word regatta means an exotic way of persecuting non-humans. And I do like the dialogue and the cutscenes here too, not only because they let you choose which faculty to represent, but also because they are one of the precious few cases in the entire game that involve actual scientists from the Oxenfurt Academy, which, sadly, similar to the Temple of the Eternal Fire, is rather underused in the game, especially considering how prominent the institution is, dating back to the Witcher books, Dandelion himself graduated here, as well as Shani, and it is no surprise that there are in fact book references in the dialogue too, and speaking of which, here's how it goes.
They closed the academy. What of it? The river's still there. The regatta will take place.
But there's no point, not with most of the students gone.
Yet we remain. Admit it. You fear us. The Faculty of Medicine and Herbology has always fared better than you philosophers.
Is that so? What about what happened in 1250?
Ah, cherish it. Your one pitiful victory. Then count your 20 defeats.
Is that what you think? Well, we shall soon see.
Admit a seasoned sailor to your faculty. It's the only way you could possibly win.
Organizing a boat race?
As we do every year. Ask the judge, he'll tell you more. I must prepare.
Getting ready for the race?
It's not a race, it's a regatta. Though I think it pointless, given that not all the faculties will take part. Sorry, but I've little time to prepare. If you wish to know more, talk to the judge.
Holding a regatta?
Indeed, as we have since the Academy's inception. Students from every faculty race every year. Sadly, only the medics and philosophers will race this season. The rest of the students fled when our merciful ruler King Radovid shut the campus down.
Let me in on the rules.
They're very simple. The faculty's representatives sail around the Isle. First to the finish line wins.
I understand this is a student race. What if a non-student wanted to take part?
Impossible, I'm afraid. The regatta crowns a year of students' efforts. It's a reward of sorts for their toil, and thus non-affiliated individuals may only watch. That is, unless...
Unless what?
Unless they too were to become students. Of medicine and herbology or of philosophy.
Now, based on our choice here, we get one of the two people we met on our way here to join us.
Always wanted to be a philosopher. Where do I sign up?
Well, the registrar is gone, but, wait a minute. Hempe, come over here. This, not young, true, but indubitably talented man wishes to enroll in your faculty.
And take part in the regatta.
Indeed. Naught is more repulsive than these monsters that defy nature and are known by the name of Witcher, as they are the offspring of foul sorcery and witchcraft.
Unscrupulous scoundrels, without conscience and virtue. They are veritable creatures from hell, capable only of taking lives.
Author got a bit carried away there.
Not just there. Funny thing is, he also never mentions we make pretty decent sailors.
Verily, that's splendid luck.
Now let me take a moment and say that I love that little bit. It's a quote from the Blood of Elves book, an old piece of anti-Witcher propaganda which ended up working and helped turn the common folk so heavily against the Witchers that they eventually attacked Kaer Morhen. And also the notion that Geralt has always wanted to be a philosopher is wonderful because it is very much true. He does philosophize quite a bit, especially in the early portions of the books. Those of you who have played The Witcher 1 likely noticed that Geralt is a bit like that in the first game too. And that is most likely because, as I've mentioned in previous videos, The Witcher 1 was initially set precisely within the early books.
The evil that Witchers fight stems from chaos, from actions aimed at disturbing order. For where evil spreads, order cannot be established. Instead of the light of wisdom, the glimmer of hope, and the glow of warmth, darkness ensues. And in darkness you find nothing but blood, fangs, and claws. Like in the outskirts.
Nicely put, but as young Cero said to King Verdank on their first date, does it have any practical uses?
We might dive deeper into that when they eventually come up with the remake, but for now, let's go back to the mod and look at the far inferior alternative response, as well as the medical faculty option, which is not bad either.
As they are the offspring of foul sorcery and witchcraft.
Yeah, that's one theory. There's another says we make great sailors.
Verily, that's splendid luck. The Faculty of Philosophy has in fact just begun admitting extramural students for the next academic year. Be delighted to enroll you, provided, of course, the Honourable Judge sees no impediment.
Well, alas, the times are such we must cherish every individual who manifests a thirst for knowledge.
In that case, I consider it my honour to welcome you amongst the students of the Faculty of Philosophy of Oxenfurt Academy. Oh, and I invite you to represent your department during the regatta.
In that case, sign me up for the medical herbal faculty. Got a feeling I'm a natural.
Well, the registrar is gone, but, wait a minute. Felix, a word, please.
Yes? What is it?
This, not young, true, but indubitably talented man wishes to enroll in your faculty.
And take part in the regatta.
Exactly. And participate in the regatta. What do you say, Felix?
Forgive, but you simply don't strike me as the intellectual type.
You got me. But I'm really just interested in the race. You study medicine. You must know witchers have 3 times the muscle tissue and tendons 5 times as strong as a normal man. True, I don't wear a monocle or a houndstooth vest, but does that really matter? You study medicine. You must know witchers have 3 times the muscle tissue and tendons 5 times as strong as a normal man. And you gotta know that significantly increases my chances of winning for your faculty.
All faculty activities have been suspended. Yet, as the former head of the student council, I believe I might be able to enroll you on an extramural basis, provided the judge does not object.
Well, alas, the times are such we must cherish every individual who manifests a thirst for knowledge.
In that case, welcome midst the student body of the Oxenfurt Academy Faculty of Medicine and Herbology.
We've also this unwritten tradition whereby participants place wagers on their victory. It makes the rivalry more interesting.
This one is also the only boat race that involves the wagering system. The other 3, if I'm not mistaken, provide a flat reward.
Before the race begins, there remains the matter of a wager. Do you wish to bet on your victory? Thank you. So, let the Oxenfurt Intramural Regatta begin. Everyone, take your places. Away you go!
Back to your scalpels and sutures. Sailing's just not your thing. Make you suck bilge water again!
Excellent race. Though the Academy's doors are shut, its spirit lives on, thanks to you. Admitting you was a wise decision. Congratulations on your victory.
Now, in addition to randomized routes, the mod developers plan on making the races repeatable, which they currently aren't. Unless you lose, that is, in which case you can race again.
Incredibly sorry you lost. Perhaps next time you'll do better.
But once you've won, there's no going back. And with that said, we go forward to Faroe, where it's cold and wet.
How are things on Faroe?
It's pissing buckets and fucking freezing.
And nothing good ever happens.
Nothing good ever came out of Faroe.
There is a boat building site on the shore, and the regatta begins right next to it. Fits the location perfectly, and this is where I noticed a couple of things. But let's hear the dialogue first, because it's rather charming.
See the race master. Maybe he'll let you.
Old boat races here, right?
Boat races? Ha! We hold a rally of the wrecks.
Well, whatever it's called, can I sign up?
You can, but be warned. We sail Skellige style, meaning none of that nonsense. You've the right of way, sir, or helping weaker seamen. At times, only one tub reaches the end, and oft, none at all do. So, Ready to race for life and death?
By the way, Rally of the Wrecks. Interesting name. How'd that come about? A lot of boats end up on the rocks.
That too. Story's different though. Used to be when a ship would run aground offshore, folk would run and hop in their dinghies, cause first to reach the wreck had the right to its cargo. And any survivors he could sell into slavery.
Lovely tradition.
Ain't it? But when the Jarl said everything in the sea we couldn't eat belonged to them, 'twas the end of our looting. But we can still race like in the good old days.
I'll risk it. Prepare your boats.
Good. Keep your eye on the boys. They'll show you the way. And watch out for Kindly Jovik. You'll be racing him. Name's a jest, cause he's one mean son of a bitch. Give him a chance, he'll smash you against the rocks. But if you win, yours will be the glory and the gold. Well, get to your boat and break a mast.
And there's also a rather funny line from your opponent halfway through the race.
Hey, Witcher! Don't look down, but your dinghy's hanging out.
Now, at Oxenfurt there were drowners swimming and floating around, but they didn't seem particularly interested in the boats. However, here on Faroe, the racetrack goes through a siren-infested cove, which is bound to make things more interesting. However, currently, the boats and the people inside them seem to be invulnerable during the race. Geralt is not taking any damage, and neither is your opponent. And I'm willing to bet my hat that at some point the developers planned on using these sirens to make the race more dangerous and dynamic. You can easily see, for example, that taking an early lead might prove dangerous since it will expose you to the sirens earlier than your opponent. Also, as I mentioned, the boats themselves are indestructible too during the race, so naturally I wanted to try damaging them somehow. And what I did was to get on my opponent's boat and sink it before the race had begun. And what happens in that case is the boat respawns once you start the race, but it's a little broken and it won't move. So maybe that's another sign that boat damage could have been a thing during these races. And I mean, just listen to the dialogue of the Skellige quests. I'll show you the second one in a moment, which has a very similar theme of making sure to tell us how scary the whole business is.
But be warned, we sail Skellige style. At times, only one tub reaches the end, and oft, none at all do. So, ready to race for life and death? Who would race in the Rally of the Wrecks? Who don't fear squalls, nor sirens, nor storms?
And it would have been a shame to get all that introduction without having any reflection of any of these things during the actual gameplay.
Slap me with a jellyfish, fine sailing there. 'Twere as if you'd been at sea all your life, born on a longship tiller in hand.
Kind of you to say so. Till next time.
Whoa there! Forgetting the prize. Here, may it remind you of your victory. You sail half decent for a continental man, but the currents are strong here, the rock's treacherous.
And the opponent's race dirty. But I'll win next time. Wait and see. So long.
And finally we reach Kaer Trolde for the 4th regatta.
Skelligers only, that's the custom. But chat up the race master, you might get somewheres.
Hey?
More hogs wraiths take you. You and that witch Yennefer both.
Heard you race boats here. Where do I sign up?
Oh, I don't know. Look to me like the kind that can't tell a backstay from your backside.
Better at telling Bullvores from Bruxae, true. But I hold my own at the helm.
Congratulations in order, I suppose. But the helmsman's dash ain't for blokes who hold their own. It's for sea wolves, the kind that don't fear no storm, squall, sea beast, or any other sailor. So what do you think? You sailing? You're not sailing.
Helmsman's Dash. There a story behind the name?
Always is. Used to be that before you got behind the tiller of a longboat, you had to prove your skill in a race like this. Now the Jarls decide who's to steer their ships, but they still hold the race. Tradition, see?
Nothing to think about. I want to race.
As you will. You've a bit more to know. You'll race Bairn the Grey, dirty old bastard, so be careful. Aim for the boys. Reach 'em first and you get the prize. But I'd not count on it in your shoes. See, It's no holes barred. None at all. So I'd think twice before I got on a boat if I were you. Well, now you know it all. Grab a boat. We'd like to start soon. Well, what are you waiting for? Freyr to clear your lines? Get on the boat!
So, in addition to the races in Skellige supposedly being very dangerous, there is another subtle theme that I was never actually aware of before experiencing this content. Both race masters, here and on Faroe, tell us about a time in Skellige's history, in Skellige's culture really, where the Jarls did not exercise so much power over the people. Each of the masters mentions a local tradition, which the Jarls eventually claimed as their own right.
Used to be when a ship would run aground offshore, folk would run and hop in their dinghies, cause first to reach the wreck had the right to its cargo. And any survivors he could sell into slavery.
Lovely tradition.
Ain't it? But when the Jarl said everything in the sea we couldn't eat belonged to them, 'twas the end of our looting. But we can still race like in the good old days.
Used to be that before you got behind the tiller of a longboat, you had to prove your skill in a race like this. Now the Jarls decide who's to steer their ships, but they still hold the race. Tradition, see?
Which I think is curious, and it's something that, other than these races, isn't really talked about much. I suppose it may be seen as something that supports the trend of Skellige slowly moving towards a monarchy, essentially, a more centralized society, if that's the proper term. At any rate, it is an interesting prospect, in my opinion. Here's how the race goes, real quick.
Who wants to race? Who craves glory and is not afeard of a watery grave? Go on, away you go. The wind fill your sails.
Sally, your sails are flapping like an old wench's lips. Land rats going down.
Well, I'd sooner expect Hjalmar and Crete to don the crown of Nilfgaard than for you to reach the mark first. Here, your prize. You've earned it.
If only folk were this eager to pay up on Witcher's contracts. Thanks. Till next time.
Well, you almost had it. Though almost off makes a big difference, especially at sea.
I'll bounce back. Just you wait. Till next time.
Now, the line about Hjalmar being king of Nilfgaard first off reminds me of the cut ending from the last video.
Honor! He dares speak of honor! I'll take the damn sword, and vow on my dad's body I will not rest until I take your emperor's head off with it! Geralt!
And it also seems to play regardless of any choices or the current stage of the game, but I did find something else while testing that. It seems the ambient dialogue of the Race Master does change to reflect some parts of the story. For example, he asks you why you've come if you interact with him as soon as you begin the story in Skellige.
No one asked you to the Isles. No one asked you to the Isles. No one asked you to the Isles.
But once you've done the quests with Yennefer, he will talk about the things she did in the garden.
More hogs wraiths take you. You and that witch Yennefer both. It's yours and the witch's doing that Freyr cursed the sacred garden.
And as far as I can tell, these are not generic NPC lines. It sounds like he has his own unique set, and it's another reason why I think these races fit really well with the rest of the narrative and the world in general. And with that, I believe I'm done. I hope this video didn't turn out to be more boring than usual, which I suspect it might have, but it really wasn't for me. I actually found this content to be quite curious, and I wish it was expanded upon and made an actual part of the game. However, this mod is the next best thing, so you should give it a try, and you should absolutely tell me what you thought about everything I talked about throughout the video, if you managed to watch it all the way through, and if not, I thank you for watching as much as you did, and of course, special thanks once again to Mersey Rockoff and anyone else involved with this mod. I hope to see more of it and similar creations in the future, and until then, stay tuned and be good.